What's good, y'all? It's your boy Abdul Rashid, and it's time for another edition of Elevated Vibes, y'all. Now, check it out. I got my boy alongside of me. It is the boss man, Mike B.
What up? What up? Happy Cinco de Mayo today. Happy Cinco de Mayo, celebrating Mexican Independence Day.
All right. Unfortunately, the gatekeeper can't be here, but he will be back next week, y'all. All right? Now, check it out. We're going to talk about the effects of media upon society today. All right, so y'all know the deal. You know the number to call, 708-223-8953. That's again, 708-223-8953. And let me remind you guys, you can check us out on Facebook Live. Come on with your comments and so forth, all right? All right, y'all, check it out. Media, the standard range of media consists of movies, radio, TV, newspaper, magazines, and books. Nowadays, we can add social media. All right. Whether we like it or not, media has an influence on all of us in aspect of society. Y'all remember the term, the pen is mightier than the sword? Now, just to give you a few examples of what I'm talking about. Remember some of the issues, you may only read it in your history books, all right? But remember some of the issues that when Orson Welles did his radio drama, The War of the Worlds.
Yep.
Do you all remember what happened after the first Birth of the Nation movie? I ain't talking about Nate Parker's, y'all. Y'all know the one I'm talking about. And the most recent example I can give you guys is the false social media post, which sparked the second set of riots last year in August in Chicago. Now, this is something I really want to put in y'all here to make y'all understand. Media can be the tool of people or the weapon of the oppressor. Again, I want y'all to get this in you. Media can be the tool of the people or the weapon of the oppressor. So it's our responsibility to use media as an aid to bring a better path for you and I. Now, as y'all know, as I always do, I got questions just to help build up the thought process, help,
facilitate the communication.
Thank you, sir.
For the elevation of the mind.
And so since we do got these questions, there's going to be a back and forth thing. And I know when it's me and the boss man, there's something, y'all. I'm going to kick it off, boss man. All right?
Okay.
All right. The network TV, cable, for a long time controlled a good portion of the societal message entering many homes. Now, with streaming service, has it broken up a lot of the power that they have? Is it a hope that it will be a change?
Look, social media, the news, all of that has an influence on all our lives daily. Mm-hmm. Right now, today, don't know if you heard, Facebook has taken to blocking our former president.
Yes.
Your former president from coming back onto the social media platform.
All I ever called him was 45. But go ahead.
Okay, yeah. And so basically because he used the platform to lie, and that led, and I know you went through the history, but we know what happened as a result on January 6th because of the lie that was spread through the media about the election, his loss, and things like that. And so much so, social media has such an influence that one of our parties has embracing this death grip with him, to propagate this lie. Mm-hmm. And so, we need to take a hard look at the influence of social media, especially as it relates to the things he puts out there, faux news. I know it's how they pronounce it, but I like to pronounce it FAUX, news, and its effect on its followers. And to the point also, they are using it to divide us as a nation. When did media become liberal or conservative?
That's true.
When it never was. It never was.
It was, mainly for, knowledge and entertainment.
Right. I don't remember anyone calling Ted Koppel, liberal or conservative. He came on and he delivered the news, and it was your prerogative to make up your mind about the facts. We think about, what's my man's name who said good night, good luck, and all of that stuff, and those people, and Walter Cronkite,
right?
Those legendary news reporters, but somehow to keep us divided, they allowed us to start labeling the media liberal or conservative, and so therefore we fall into this camp of whether or not we should follow a certain set of news facts.
Okay. But let's go a little further with that, like I was talking about with the streaming services, because you had where that everything went a certain way on a constant basis with network TV and cable.
Right.
Now with streaming services, and there's so many out there.
Right.
I mean, it's not just Hulu and
Amazon
and
Netflix.
Right. It's a number of many more out there, and it gives a chance for, they would say, the little guy to bring their message to the people.
Yes. Moving away from social media, we're also talking about images and how people are portrayed in those images.
Right.
And so what we're seeing is that Hollywood may no longer be the go all, be all, end all for images.
Right.
We're seeing the birth of, minority directors and producers coming. And we can't forget, like, even on YouTube, like if you Google YouTube, they are putting like small, I don't want to say plays or movies,
right?
Especially for those people who don't fit Hollywood's image,
exactly,
of what actors and actresses should be. And every day we are being fed these images,
right?
Because we are a consumer society. And so I think the social media platforms, these streaming services, are interrupting, Hollywood, and I think what we're seeing is an accountability. Accountability is coming.
It makes Hollywood step their game up.
Well, I mean, just look at all the stuff that was nominated for best movies. I think it was for the first time we either had all women directors or something like that.
Right.
For so long, the status quo, as you know, has been white male. Right. And we've been looking through that paradigm to determine the greatness of a movie, despite all of us having some contribution to make to the society, and how we're reflected in those paradigms. You talk about, how Black people are portrayed, how Asians are portrayed, how, Latino people are portrayed. And so now they're getting, I shouldn't say we are getting to tell the story from our perspective and not who Hollywood thinks we should be.
Okay. All right. Next question.
All right.
As minorities, we, unfortunately, if you look at the figures, we have a lower life expectancy than others, unfortunately.
Okay.
Do you feel that some of these images play a part in it? And if so, how big of a part?
Man, Rich, that's more than a social media issue.
Right.
I mean, is it a contributing factor? Undoubtedly. When you look in the 80s at who was targeted for certain medications and alcohol and things like that, I know you remember the St. Ives commercial.
Right.
That wasn't targeted for our brethren of the Caucasian race. That was definitely targeted towards, people of color. When you look at, the placement of cigarette ads within, predominantly colors of communities of color, those things. So the fact that, health and all of those things, there's a mix of factors. We can get into the sociological factors. We can get into the economic factors. We can get into how racism is a hazardous condition for people of color's health. That's a mental strain, a mental anxiety that, people of color have to deal with. How we're locked into our communities and, denied, fresh fruit. So that's a lingual question. Does social media play a factor in that? Sure. Especially
but media in general.
Media in general, yeah. Media,
not just, social is a big factor, but in general, media.
Yeah. I think when you look at typically how we have been portrayed in the media, yes, it's definitely a contributing factor.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what's also a big contributing factor. It's not so much how we have been portrayed, but how have we not been portrayed. All
Very
right.
much so.
Very
much so.
I love this special that's coming on TV right now, on the History Channel.
Okay.
And I love the History Channel, but it doesn't tend to be inclusive of the story of us. Like I'm right now watching this special called Foods That Built America, and it's talking about, Frito-Lay, Burger King, McDonald's, and all of this stuff. But where is the story of other people of color? You know what I'm saying? Like it leads to
then the few things that the History Channel may bring of us. What's the name? Hannibal of Carthage.
Well, that was one special,
right? But remember the big hoorah they made about it when they found out that Hannibal was a minority.
Well, he was from the continent. I mean, right? He was from Africa.
Exactly.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Is it becomes an issue when you don't know something and you're confronted with who the truth is.
Right.
So part of the problem we're having in America with this race ideology is that the story of people of color and their contributions has overwhelmingly been overlooked. As we have talked about on this show before, Martin Luther King came, he sat down at a counter, Rosa Parks refused to get up, they passed the Civil Rights Bill, and everything was okay. There's nothing about the contribution of African Americans towards the building of this nation, outside of slavery. There's nothing taught in the history books about the people of Asian descent except for the Japanese internment camp. There's nothing taught about Latinos and their contribution to this society. And that leads to this, this, I don't know, internal conflict that when we're finally presented this facts and you're like, oh, the dominant race didn't do all of this stuff, that this was built on the people of color's back, then it becomes an issue. So that's part of my issue with social media. Like, start telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about the contributions of these races. Start educating people so that, when you see some of the stuff that's happening in some of these states and you're like, wait a minute, didn't we try to do that in the 1950s and 1960s? What happened as a result of that?
But you also got to remember, because I know you keep stepping back with social media, but we also got to bring the whole spiel of media in general. Just like it was that issue with what was the movie, Gods of Egypt or something like that, where it did not have
No. Yeah, the Gods of Egypt when Gerald Butler was playing Pharaoh.
Right, exactly. When we all know that over there they do not look like Gerald Butler. Now, I'm not saying that he's not a good actor, but they do not look like Gerald Butler.
Well, I mean, same thing when, remember the hoopla that came out when Spider-Man, they turned him into I believe a Puerto Rican, like he became a person of color and there was this brouhaha,
Right.
And then remember when Star Wars, the last 3 came out, and the main character was African-American, sorry, he was British, but he was black, and there was this hoopla, I'll give you even one better. Remember when Fox News and people started portraying Santa Claus as black and Megan came out and said, no, Santa Claus is white? Like, what? Like, Santa Claus is A, imaginary, B, doesn't exist, and C, why is he only relegated to being a person of Caucasianness? Right. So.
And then we go to the true history of Santa Claus. It was from, I think the guy was either from Germany or Turkey.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
The guy was from, he's of more of a Middle Eastern descent. So.
Right. So we have no problems having whites portray roles of non-color, but when it's flipped and we want to decide it, then there's this panic about, cancellation culture, or we're doing this and we're taking stuff away. It's like, well, hey, Santa Claus never belonged to you. He belonged to all children.
Exactly.
And the importance of social media is that it's important that everybody sees a reflection of themselves in media, because then it becomes a possibility.
Right.
I'll give you a perfect example.
It should be driven to all your viewers.
Your viewers.
Right, exactly. Your viewers or listeners or readers or whatever.
I remember being an overweight kid, light-skinned overweight kid coming up, and then Heavy D came on the scene.
Right.
And I was like, and he was the overweight lover. And for me, it became a sense of empowerment, because if Heavy D can do it, I can do it. So it's important that as a society that we reflect all aspects of society. Like, you remember when the movies Colors came out, and it was like all black people belong to a gang. I mean, as a kid, I'll give you one that I used to love, Dukes of Hazzard. It made it okay for lack of a better word, people of non-color to be rebels. How did the song go? Just a good old boys. And what was the never line? What was the next line? Never meaning no harm.
Right.
Beats all you ever saw. Been in trouble with the law since the day they were born.
Right.
But somehow that made it okay. It made it okay for them to ride around in General Lee. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about canceling Dukes of Hazzard. It was a great show. I loved it. I love Roscoe Pico Train, Bo and Luke Duke. But social media also said it made it okay to be a white rebel. But you can't do that if you're a person of non-color.
I get what you're saying. But you also got to look at the things with media and so forth, with the Dukes of Hazzard and all that. And I'm not trying to pick on them. All right. I mean, I think almost everybody watched that show. All right.
I did.
But here's the deal. All right. And here goes into the thing of the flags and all that. It kind of nullified for that generation of what that flag meant.
It made it acceptable.
Right. It made it acceptable.
Yeah. I didn't understand why my parents hated that show.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing. Media then and should be directed towards the truth, so that there is no, blurred lines about what is what and so forth. Because then a lot of times when you get that, what happens?
Right.
All right. You have this issue, this difference between the people. And I mean, you could just look at TV today, and that tells you that whole story.
Well, I mean, media should be used for educational and entertainment purposes.
Correct.
And as we grow and evolve as society,
a minute, not to cut you off.
Okay.
Like you said, educational and entertainment purposes, but also true educational. And I'm putting that in front of it because then they will say, yes, we still educated you. But did you tell the truth?
Yeah. I mean,
the full truth.
True. I mean, that's the issue that fake news says all the time. It's like, we're not reporting. And then they always point to the fact that, fake news, faux news is, leading in all the ratings above CNN, MSNBC, so that there must be something. But the fact is that everybody's entitled to know the truth. And when you slay that truth and slant it to another side just so that it appeals to that devilish side in all of us, which fake news does. It doesn't report the facts as it is. It appeals to a certain type of listener by pushing all those buttons.
Right.
And sometimes I'll listen to fake news just to, know what the other side is thinking. It's hard, it's hard, and
isn't there a line in The Art of War that says you have to completely know your enemy?
No,
and not to try to do enemy, but your opponent.
Well, yeah.
So listening to those fake news, even though it's kind of rough, but it's understandable.
I mean, yeah. Am I doing them a disservice by calling them fake news? But at some point, we have to agree on what the truth is.
Exactly.
You can't deny that the earth is warming up.
Exactly.
That, like, at this point,
and you still got deniers out there.
But we can disagree on how much the earth is warming up. But the earth is warming up. And when you sit there and you're reporting to your listeners, know that this is fake. Look how cold it was this winter. Like, that's fake. Like, we have to stop this. It's leading to the polarization that we have never seen before. And so, that's why we're all locked into our camps and we can't hear each other.
Exactly.
we can disagree about politics, like whether the government should spend and whether or not it leads to, people not working, but we can't go into it believing that government is bad. Like everything the government has done is bad. Perfect example. We had a bad president prior to. Right. That's why the pandemic happened.
Right.
I think it would be hard pressed for anybody for us to disagree with. Now, Fox News might do it.
Oh yeah, they will.
They will, but but everybody else seems to be of the consensus.
Right.
That the new administration is handling the job, rolling
that
out
the
vaccines.
Old administration should
have. But this is what happens when you have fake news out there.
Right.
And it just feeds the ego. It doesn't tell you who they are. So,
and then they also want to guide the narrative.
The narrative because it serves their base and it serves their purpose.
It serves their purpose.
It serves their purpose.
Exactly.
Gatekeeper always talks about this individualism that is happening across our country. That there's this, rugged individualism for the people, but is rampant socialism for corporations.
Yes.
And so we have to get to a point where we say enough is enough. Like, today, like I said, Facebook came out and said, we're not allowing him back on. My question is, that's cool and all, but are we comfortable with social media making it that decision? Like in this case, I think they erred on the side of good.
Right.
But what happens if something else happens? Should these markets be determining the consciousness of America?
Well, these markets are going to determine it because see now it messes with their money. You know what I mean? But do I feel it should have been banned? Yes. I would say it with no problem. I mean, there are others who are banned that I see through my social media stream. I'm not gonna, get too deep with those others who are banned from social media, and I understand why some, have an issue with it. But we all got to remember, this is still their platform,
and that's my issue.
Right?
Do you believe that Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram should be determining who has access to the public voice? Like, right. I get it in this case. Like, for most part, I think 8 out of 10 people would agree, yeah, he probably shouldn't be on here. What happens if it's you and me next time?
Exactly. And I was just about to touch on that. All right. The thing is this. All right. We all know, like I just said, even though, it's a publicly traded company, so it could be in a way a public platform, but it's still their company. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? And they're not going to do whatever to lose any type of money. But see, the thing is, people have to give the knowledge that there are other social type of platforms that are out there. They may not be as big because we don't know about it.
But to your point, like every time I watch ABC a lot, right? Okay. And then you find out ABC on this, ABC on that, ABC on this. How do those smaller media markets, like we're on here, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
YouTube, which I'm not sure who they own by Yahoo, at some point might be like, oh, Elevated Vibes is too controversial, mm-hmm. and so we're gonna take it off. You know what I'm saying? Right. So we're looking at these conglomerations coming together, buying up small social media markets.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore the truth, people like you and I who's, sit there and research and, go out and look, if we're bought up by a bigger shark, they silence our voice. And so that's also a concern.
Agreed. But see, the thing is, it's the people. All right. The people, and they know you're doing what you're doing. They need to, even though you got to put yourself out there. We all know that. On whatever you do, I don't care if you're going for a job, you got to put yourself out there. All right. But it's also the job of the people. If you're here telling the truth, bringing it for better, then guess what? People who are listening to me, or they may say, oh, I'm listening, whatever, at least spread it to the next man and the next man and the next man so that, whatever you're doing catches on.
I get that, but that social media allows us to be that megaphone that allows us to spread our message quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so not just social media, but all types of media.
Right.
it allows us to, is better than 1788 when, people were taking papers from colony to colony, and it took a minute, you put something out on social media or put it out on the media today, and instantly you are connected to millions upon millions of viewers.
Right.
And so I think we have a responsibility to be truthful and, saying this is an opinion. This is what I'm basing my opinion on.
Exactly.
And, reasonable minds may disagree as to facts, but, it used to be a time where, the news was just reported and people reached their own opinions. And the other issue, and I'm going to bring this up, and I know I'm jumping around. Sorry about that out there.
It's all right.
Is this 24-hour news cycle. I don't know if that's good for us or not. I don't know if having access, can you have too much information, or can it be so detrimental to the point where it's like, people need a break. The news when we were coming up came on at what? In the morning, 5:30, 5 o'clock, and 10 o'clock.
And that was it.
That was it.
But, I mean, I also get it because news is happening all the time. All the time, something's going on. And a lot of times you want to be in the know instead of turning around and you getting hit by a brick. You ain't know where it came from. So I do get that,
But is it good for us? Like, is it good for us as a society? I think we definitely need to start answering that question. Is it good for
a point? To a point, it is on that fact that you need to be in the know. Okay. Now, is it good in all types of ways? No, because it takes you away from other things that you should be doing to enjoying life, to building yourself up. So, it has its good and it has its bad. All right.
I mean, I agree. I'm kind of at the point now where I try not to listen to the news in the morning.
Okay.
Just because, it always starts out with somebody got shot, this train collapsed, there was an earthquake. When you hear that stuff and that's how you start your day, what kind of day do you think you're gonna have? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always to me like they start.
How you take it in too.
I think. Look, we call it elevated vibes here, because we try to elevate hearts and minds, not because it deals with something else. But if you're in a room with chronic elevated smokers,
okay,
regardless of your intention.
Right.
At some point, it's gonna get in you. Like if this room that we were in was filled with,
what,
an elevated herb,
right.
Mother Earth,
okay,
Mary Jane, and I know you don't do it, but it's 10 of us in here who doing it. Regardless,
I'm gonna get some.
You gonna get some. No, regardless of your intention, at some point it's gonna get into.
It's gonna get to me. You're right. You're absolutely right. It's just like I said though. Okay, if I know I'm in a room and it's 10 of y'all. And we know what's going on.
Yeah.
And now it's up to me to say, okay, I'm gonna step out for a minute, give me some air. And in a way that's what I mean. It's how you take it in. Just like you talked about some of the things in the morning, how are you gonna go through the rest of the day? All right. So something like that. Okay, and I watch the news in the morning. I can't say I watch it religiously or whatever, but I do watch it. All right. Now, when it's something like that, you may think about it for a minute or whatever you're going to do, but then I know I got the rest of my day I got to do, so it's gone until I go watch the news again, But it all depends on how you take it in.
I just think if you're repeated to it day after day,
you
every day,
become cynical. But go ahead.
You become cynical. Studies have shown that people who constantly watch the news magnify how much danger they think there is. What are your chances of getting shot? What are your chances of being in an earthquake? What are your chances of being in a hurt? Like, if you watch this stuff, regardless, right. At some point, it does take a detrimental effect on your soul. Right. And so I'm just of the opinion that, take a break from it. I've moved away from checking Facebook first thing in the morning. It's right. just, I don't feel like it benefits me, because you're either seeing people at their best or at their worst, and neither one of them are true. You know what I'm saying? Like, that picture,
a little twist in every bit of it.
But, when you're looking at this person who's sitting there on vacation in a boat with their legs kicked up and the sun shining on them,
Right.
and you sitting in your cubicle looking at the TPSN report and why you submitted the wrong report. It's not happy to be happy in that case. You know what I'm saying? Like, like why this person living this life, but you forget, even though you might subconsciously know, like this is just a moment in time.
Yeah.
It's just a hard thing to do,
Right,
so
right.
I try to start the day off by listening to people who bring me joy. Now in that case, social media is a positive thing. I listen to YouTube. I listen to, I'll do the little TikTok, word up to Taylor, so, someone sending me, some TikToks, just something to put a smile on your face, when I see people who are down, I'll send them my list of YouTubes, like, yo, just listen to it. Cause just as negative stuff can get into your soul, into your spirit, every day, if you listen to something positive, and you practice gratitude, and I'm trying to do that more and more and more. I've been in some dark places,
Right.
and you've helped me through that, and I think we all get into those dark spots sometimes. And sometimes social media can contribute to that.
That's very true.
So I try to practice a morning ritual of listening to things that elevate me, because sometimes you just wake up in the morning and it's just like another day.
But that's also too why you don't put all your business on social media. That's a whole nother story, and it's getting way off topic. But
you know how many crimes have been solved because people have put. I mean, just think about January 6th and how many people they done busted because
they were.
So and make sure like as you're listening, if you have something you want to share and give us a call at 708-223-8953. Here in the studio, we would love to hear from you and what your thoughts are about media and social media and all of that stuff. So please give us a call. But yeah, just try to do something different. Like this is my challenge for the week, and it's not going to be a challenge for you because you ain't on it.
Right.
For the next week, so from let's just say Wednesday to Sunday, I want you first thing in the morning not to go on Facebook until about 11 o'clock. That's my challenge to the listeners and the people who are viewing us. Don't go on Facebook until about 11 o'clock in the morning. And let me know, give us a call next week and let us know how your day is going.
But see, I'm going to add on to that challenge. I'm going to add on to it. Since you're throwing those type of challenges out there. Also, do your best to watch or read anything or listen to anything positive.
Anything. First 15 minutes and with you get up.
Nothing negative. Now, that's the challenge for y'all.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we're going to take a quick music break and we will be right back. This is Elevated Vibes, y'all. And one more reminder, the number is 708-223-8953. And you can always hit us up on Facebook Live. This is Elevate the Vibes, and we are back at you. All right. Now, once again, we are talking about media images upon people in general, just media images. How can we, got another question for you.
Uh-oh. Hit me up. Hit me up.
Yeah. All right. Now, when you're dealing with the artists from these different songs, TV programs, movies, books, or whatever.
Wow. Okay.
All right. They will claim that we're calling for something like censorship. All right. And we're trying to kill their creativity.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your response to that?
I mean, there's a lot of controversy around some of the music videos that come now, and how people are portrayed, particularly women. I come to mind Cardi B. What's my other girl's name? The one who just got shot in the foot. I can't think of her name.
Megan.
Megan Thee Stallion. Yeah. That's how you know you're getting old, when you can't remember the current pop culture references.
Bro, you got other stuff to do.
Man, it's just like,
let's keep it very honest.
It's just another symbol of us getting old,
This is true. It's called having responsibilities as well.
And I think about her performance, and you're getting old when you start reading the comments like, oh, this is trash and all of that stuff. And there has always been this generational pull fight between, pushing the boundaries, of what we think is acceptable. For us, it was NWA,
right?
Or Two Live Crew,
right?
Like this, I think NWA or Two Live Crew was the first one that led to the sticker of parental advisory.
Exactly.
How many of us remember going to Coconuts and trying to get that Two Live Crew tape?
You can even remember the name of the store.
Man, I remember going to Coconuts.
I couldn't remember the name of the store to save my life.
Hey, you went to Coconuts. I forget what it was out on the East Coast, but it was the first tape,
right,
that came with the sticker warning, parental advisory, and all of that stuff. So there's always been this tension, but I always find it interesting how we try to regulate sexuality, but don't try to regulate violence. You can have 100 guns and talk about shoot them up, as long as you're not talking about cops. Now, if you're talking about, brothers killing brothers and all of that stuff, and drinking St. Ives and all of that stuff, but as soon as you flash a booby, for the Super Bowl, oh, well, now you got to be canceled because, everybody saw a booby. Like, you
got to remember the one thing, all that brings in money, all of it. And see, once you go into the sexuality type thing, now you have those that get real stickler on a number of things. Okay. And that's, if you don't try to look like you want to regulate it, notice what I said.
Yeah.
Look like you want to regulate it. Now you're losing some money.
But why are we so keen? I mean, as much as gun violence happens in this country, because everybody loves their guns, and we'll get to that show a little bit later. That we saving that topic.
Oh yeah.
But you can talk about all kind of violence. I love John Wick movies. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But you put out a movie that's sensual and all of this stuff. Now it's got to have an NC-17 rating. And so what does that tell us about our society? Like, violence great, sex is bad. It's like, ain't nobody ever died because Megan Thee Stallion dropped it because it's hot. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
No, nobody has died because Little Kim, talks about, how she wants to check the microphone and how she's good at it,
But now you got to look at it too as well. You have to look at the thing of, I'm trying to get the word right, but in a way you're putting women down still, and you're putting it out there as that. And I get the creativity. I get all of that, but you have to also look from their point of view. And if you really look at it, you throwing this out to, let's just say, a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old boy. All right. What is he going to eventually think? Yeah, exactly. Now,
I mean, so where's the line between a woman embracing her sensuality and sexuality, and at what do we as guys? And I know we're jumping way off the topic, but it all deals with media and its images and stuff. If Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, Little Kim, and I can't remember my girl's name, Anaconda. I can't even think of her name right now. I'm getting old. But if these women choose to embrace their sensuality and to profit from it, who am I to stop them? You know what I'm saying? Just because of what some 13-year-old might do or what a 14-year-old girl perceives.
Now,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
here's where you're playing with the line. Okay. That you have to see that, okay, if you keep putting that out there towards that 13-year-old boy or the 14-year-old girl, what's to say on what they're going to think when they get older? Or these days, let's keep it real. They may go do that the very next day. All right. And you have to draw a line somewhere. All right. Don't get me wrong. They're going to learn. They're going to do it anyway. They're going to get it from their friends or whatever. But it's still that line. Once you start crossing it, then.
Okay. So we have no problem.
I mean, I got the issue with sometimes with some of the violence they may put out on network TV. Okay, because I know you're about to go with that, and I get it. I get it. I got a small issue with that, and a couple other things that they may put out on network TV. That's why you had cable. All right, but then also too, then it was up to the parents to say, okay, Johnny or whoever you are, you ain't watching this. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's fair. I just, I as a society, I'm kind of tired of us telling women, and it only applies to women. It's a unilateral stand. I mean,
Yeah, and it's always been that sense, but you can apply it both ways, because you can apply it to where you can tell that man, hey, slow down.
I mean, I get it.
You can
communicates
to that man and saying, hey, stop being a boy, let's be a man.
It communicates a certain type of way that women are supposed to be treated and things like that.
Right.
I get that. I think your argument is well founded, grounded in fact and theory.
Exactly.
But I do have a problem when it comes to, we always, and it's particularly women of color. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody got a problem.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Nobody got somehow. What's the one that's a model? The Kendall Jenner and and her sister. They're these models of excellence and what a woman's body should look like. And I'm like, to who? Like they do absolutely nothing for me. Like it does. All I want to do is be like, yo, she got to eat. Like that does nothing for me. You know what I'm saying? But they are held up as these paragons of what women bodies should look like, and,
but then that's pushed out through the media on this, and it shouldn't be pushed out like that.
Right? Like, and so media,
I agree with you 100% on that.
So media, and I know we're jumping all over, and I'm sorry about that. Media is always telling us what we should look like, all right, 2, how we should act, and 3, what we should have,
right?
And I have problems with that, especially when it comes to how we treat women of color and their sexuality and their sensuality. We don't want that. We don't want the women with the curves and all of that stuff. That I mean, let's be honest. That's the real issue with Megan Thee Stallion. She's a curvaceous woman, beautiful woman, who flaunts and embraces her sensuality and sexuality. But we only want her to do it, within this paradigm or parameters as we give Kylie Jenner. Or we give to Kendall Jenner,
right? And see, that's a whole different story. But I agree with you.
So I hear what you're saying. Right. Yes, when we see Megan embracing, as I say, embracing her sensuality and her sexuality and things like that, yes, it does convey a certain type of message. My thing is maybe that's the time we as guys should have a discussion with other guys and younger guys. It's like, yo, this is just. A woman expressing, but that's not a reflection of how you should treat her.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with what she's doing. that's a time for us to have those conversations.
Right. And a lot of times we drop the ball.
We drop the ball on that.
I agree with you on that.
And we say, oh, you shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't do this.
Right.
That's the time where we should have these conversations. But we don't ever have conversations with the fact that John Wick can have a conversation with his enemies, that the best thing that he should have done was to, go and kill 132 people in the like we accept that as a form of masculinity.
Right.
And that's why we have this toxic masculine culture right now. Like, we're supposed to fight and we're supposed to shoot. And, we don't see men as being portrayed as emotional, vulnerable, dealing with problems without resorting to violence. We have this rugged individual cowboy manner in which we do that. And so that's what the social media is pushing out to us.
That's been instilled in us. So now it's up to us to break it down and even go further. Because see, like back in the day, if you had an issue with a television show or whatever, you and maybe 10 other people could do something like write the FCC, and we could start breaking it away.
Cancel.
But, right. Well, hold on. But now you got to get like a army to fill the city of Chicago and kind of hope. Because if you may have the power, but if you ain't got the money, you know what I mean? You have to hope that they may cancel it.
Well, I mean, we money talks.
That's true.
Money talks. And commercials, and if people are turning off and things like that, then yeah. But when we talk about violence, let's go back to our childhood, Rich. You remember this show called Chips?
Of course.
Did you ever see Frank or John pull their guns? No. Let me get Starsky and Hutch.
Well, I think they pulled their guns.
Yeah, but did you ever see anybody shot or killed? How about Columbo? Beretta.
Hold on. I knew they were there, but I ain't watch them that hard.
Yeah, I mean, these are all shows,
right?
That seem to be able to accomplish their goal of catching a bad guy without resorting to violence.
Exactly.
But now, it doesn't seem like violence is the only way to solve our issues. So that's my, I know we've gone way off tangent, but that's my issue with the violence versus the sensuality and sexuality.
Okay. One last one I'm gonna throw out here, and then we're coming towards the tail end of the show.
Okay.
Let me also remind y'all too, if y'all want to keep the conversation going, you can always hit us up, Facebook Live, or just in general. And hey, we'll answer you. That's guaranteed. We will. But all right, I got another one for you. There are times that you have businesses that they might not like the knowledge that some folks put out there. Okay, it might go against some things that will be making their profits. All right, now here's the thing: we know this is what that business is doing. What do you think that can be done that, let's say, we could put an end to that, we can slow that down? Because if the knowledge is out there to change something and not feed this business, who ain't nothing but a big beast anyway, you'll never fill the belly of the beast, okay? No matter how hard you try. So if we know that, all right, what can we as a people do to make that change?
That's tough. First of all, at some point, media and particularly news media became a business.
That's true.
So all of these businesses, the Disneys, whoever owns NBC, CBS, they're businesses, and their main thing is to generate revenue. And it's become an issue because as businesses get into the media business, they get to influence and determine what is determined as news, and so this is the problem we alluded to earlier. So one of the issues, I think, or one of the solutions, is public funding of the media. Like we need to go back to like Channel 11,
right?
Like people who just receive public funds, so that news can remain independent and be free of the business. Like I said, I'm not comfortable with Facebook, which is a business, or just throwing out there, any of these companies determining what is and what isn't news or newsworthy. But because you may have 90% share market, or let's say, heck, Amazon is in the news business, they own the Washington Post. Like, what happens when Amazon says, you know what, you can't print that? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's scary.
Right.
That to me is scary.
Right.
When all of these corporations are involved in media and the images that we see. Like, Amazon is a behemoth.
Exactly.
Its money dwarfs that of some countries. And so it has this, media arm, the Washington Post, that it can determine what is or what isn't media. Now, it's only, as we have seen, due to the conscience of good men that has said, look, y'all remain independent and y'all do what the news is. But we see what happens when men of not good conscience get into positions of power. Most recently, 45.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've
Murdoch.
Perfect example.
Exactly.
Koch brothers. And I'm not just saying that because they're conservative. I'm sure that there are papers.
I'm saying from what they've done. I don't care if you was conservative or whatever.
Okay.
But
I don't want to fall into that paradigm either.
So,
but what happens when people of good conscience with power cease to be people of good conscience? And that's how democracy dies. We've talked about the lack of
wins.
Dictatorship. We've talked about the lack of coverage in Aurora, and what has happened. Right. So I think the only solution I have at this point is public funding.
Right.
What are your thoughts about, like, what can we do to stop this?
Well, that would be the main thing. Something that's on the level of public funding, and just the people have to speak up. Notice something, speak up. All right. Don't think that you're just the little guy and nobody will hear you. All right. And then get 10 of your friends and have them speak up too. And they can get another 10, whatever. But you got to speak up. You got to do it, because on the tail end of everything, the people have the power. If they really look at it, the people have the power. You got these conglomerate of companies and so forth, where you have maybe a board or whatever, but it's the people who have the power. What happens in any company if all the workers don't work?
It's called a strike, but
but the company fails for that day. Am I not correct?
That's true.
So that's the thing. People have to realize they have the power to make the change that is needed, and come on and let's make it. And that's the deal. And not tear to each other's throats, but grow together as one. That's the deal.
Yeah, I don't have to step on your back in order to elevate. And
right.
I think
exactly.
You have a problem with the McDonald's worker making $15, but you don't have a problem with the CEO making quadruple that amount.
Right.
Like that's the root issue. Like, that's why your hamburger is so high. Because this guy is making $15 an hour, but the CEO, with all his stock options and all of that, is making $500 million.
Right.
But they have done a good job of making us believe that worker who's making $15 is the root of all my issues, not, not the CEO who has all these stock options, getting all these tax breaks, hiding his money in the Cayman Island.
Right.
That he isn't the problem.
Now, that's a whole nother story with that Cayman Island things, because you notice how everybody hides their money over there.
Well, that's because the Caymans get, a good tax break.
Yeah, but we are out of time today, everybody. But we will be back next week. Okay, so
happy Cinco de Mayo. Get your tacos. Celebrate Mexican Independence Day. I'm on my way to get me some tacos. So,
but guys, check it out. Stay tuned for the Great Business Show coming up right here on IntellectualRadio.com.
Peace.